Echo. I received a book today that made me just want to do a little spontaneous impromptu haul video. Just a little fluff, just a little still here, guys. And that book is not this lovely Everyman's Library edition of Proust. It was a very kind, lovely gift from my kind and lovely wife. So I think next year will likely be the year where I read Proust. Very exciting. But yeah, the book that got me all fired up today is this edition, the Annotated Mrs Dalloway by Virginia Woolf. It's a short book, but as you can see, this very lovely produced hardback is actually surprisingly thick. First we have a lovely introduction, some autobiographical details, lots of lovely paintings and pictures, and then when the book itself, it's a lovely book, just the pages, the quality feels wonderful, looks beautiful. All these letters, photos, maps. Here we are in the book itself, and you can see that you get these footnote-like references on both sides of the book. And just the amount of research and the amount of detail done in this, it's just very impressive. Yeah, this just is such a great looking book, and if you have any interest in Woolf, I'd suggest you run to Amazon or Book Depository or wherever you buy new books, because this is stellar. And I got Fording the Stream of Consciousness by Dubravka Grechik. I have no idea on the pronunciation. But this is a debut novel. Well, she did write children's books for many years, but she stopped, and this was her first sort of literary fiction. She was a former Yugoslav writer. She's now a Croatian writer, I suppose. Was very interested in the sort of Russian avant-garde writing. She apparently rediscovered some interesting Russian authors, and she translated several Russian authors, including a favorite of mine, Daniil Karms. So even though I haven't read her, I know that she at least has a good taste. She has won many awards, and she has another book called The Museum of Unconditional Surrender that also seems interesting to me. But this is the book is set at a literary conference in Zagreb in 1982. The book came out in 1988. So this was This is set before the fall of the Soviet Union, and well, before Yugoslavia was divided up into these countries, and it seems quite interesting. She seems to have been quite an insider already then. It concerns sort of the struggle of writing. It's a book of books, a book about books, and sort of like a clash of cultures, and how different nations remembers the past differently. Sort of gives you the Eastern European perspective, and also criticizes the West for how it has at times sort of romanticized communist countries. At the same time, it's supposed to be quite funny. It's supposed to be it's very postmodern. It's metafictional. Lots of literary references. There is lots of making fun of writers and poets. There's a murder mystery. Different types of text in it. There are these epistolary parts. There are stolen manuscripts. At one point, early on, she writes, "I love writers. They're so small and pitiful." And that sort of says a lot about the perspective this is written from. But yeah, this was also the only hard copy I could find anywhere, and it refused to ship to Norway, so I got to try out forwarding service, and it thankfully worked out wonderfully. But yeah, I'll give you an update on how I like that. Another book I got was Terrace of Ice and Darkness by Christoph Ransmeyer. Wonderful title. I believe I've talked about The Last World in a previous video, but it's just wonderful inversions of Ovid. Very well done, and very fun and interesting. Like, Ransmeyer is Austrian, and this was his debut novel. The Last World was his second book. This is sort of it follows. Well, there's a narrator in this that makes very little of himself. That talks about a 1981 disappearance of Joseph Massini, who was obsessed with the Austro-Hungarian North Pole expedition of 1872, which is a real polar expedition, and we get these two, the tales of these two polar expeditions told to us, and sort of non-linearly swap between them, and you get like this very, very intellectual and sort of dark book is what it's been described to me as. Like just how bleak and terrifying and difficult these expeditions are, and when you think of how different it was at the end of the 1800s compared to more modern polar expeditions, it's pretty extreme. Should be a very interesting read. Also got Blindness and Rage, a Phantasmagoria by Brian Castro. Really loved the Bathhouse Fugues. I have purchased several Castro books that I haven't read yet, but a lovely picture of Flaubert. But this one is interesting. It's a novel in 34 cantos, and it's very much another bit of a theme with me, I guess. But it's another book about writing, book about fiction and what writing is. It's the this descent into the underworld of writing to sort of like mirror Virgil and Dante. Really my cup of tea, because like here you have Lucian Grock, who is fatally ill, he learns, and he decides to travel to France and join a group of writers who anonymously published a work of dying authors. There are lots of references to Oulipo writers like Perec and Italo Calvino. Sounds my cup of tea. Also received the Time Regulation Institute. I recently made a new acquaintance on Discord who educated me a bit about what I'm missing out in Turkish literature. Previously, I've only read Orhan Pamuk, which I didn't love, but it's been a long time, so that's also something that I might want to revisit. But this is sort of explores Turkey post World War One, when it's on like the threshold of crossing the threshold of the Ottoman Empire to its sort of rebirth as a secular Western state. And I've had it referred to both as a modernist novel and as the greatest example of postmodern writing from Turkey. Apparently very complex, lots of subplots and sort of some absurdist and heroic digressions, and very much about sort of the bureaucracy that sort of this transition led to for them. But it's supposedly very beautifully written in its original, and I hear that the translation is good, but that it's not quite up to the task. But I'm very intrigued to check out the Time Regulation Institute. Also received a few books that there's less to say about. William Faulkner, Absalom. I read some Faulkner. It's the first one I own. I should reread Sound and Fury and Silently Dying. Cormac McCarthy. I'm currently reading and loving Suttree. First time I tried this, I wasn't in the right place to enjoy it, I think. But Suttree has changed my mind about McCarthy. He's a genius, and his just his prose writing is really enough to sustain his books, even if setting and plot isn't what doesn't interest you. Early novels, genres. I think I read in an interview some author mentioning that Voyage in the Dark was very underrated and should be read more. So I picked that up. Yeah, I think that's it. I also received a super secret Patreon recommendation from Orpheus, which I'm not going to show you, but it's a signed copy, and I'm very excited. Should support our boy Drake. Anyways, thanks for watching.